Last weekend, Hallmark Channel premiered Autumn at Apple Hill, starring Erin Cahill and Wes Brown. Now, I love both these actors, but for maybe the first 45 minutes or so of watching it, I was on the fence about whether or not I was going to like this one. I knew it had the potential to be great, but depending on the direction it went that second hour, it could also have been a bust for me. As you can probably imagine, I have a lot more to say about why I felt this way and what direction it went, so let's dive right in and talk about it. Hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is the Magical Movie Club, a place to come and chat about everything Hallmark movies. So, what I alluded to in the intro, it has to do with how I felt about Erin Cahill's character. Elise in this story was intentionally not nice. At first it was kind of funny, but she took it a little too far in some places. The big question is, did she redeem herself? Well, we'll get there, I promise. The movie opens with a flashback scene narrated by Erin Cahill's character Elise. In this montage, she tells us all about how her grandparents bought the inn at Apple Hill a long time ago and how special it was for her growing up here.
Apple Hill was a place where I could be anyone.
We even saw her get married, and eventually, when we're brought back to the present, she's finalizing a divorce.
Ms. Jacobs will take full ownership of Inn at Apple Hill.
And on top of all that, we learn that her grandparents are gone now too, and she takes over the inn at Apple Hill all on her own to try to bring back the magic it once was.
I knew it just needed some TLC to bring it back to life.
Incidentally, have you ever seen The Money Pit with Tom Hanks and Shelley Long? Yeah, I don't know why this movie made me think of that one.
Let me move you to another table. I'm sure we can just...
There were some...
As we'll quickly find out, the place is in serious need of repairs.
They had to defer a lot of maintenance just to get by.
Especially the electrical system.
Short-lived as they might be.
It's beyond outdated, and it barely works now even when their bookings are low. And unfortunately, their bookings are always low.
So you're not at full occupancy?
So Elise needs a loan to be able to fix things up, or the inn won't be around much longer. Well, it's either that or she needs to partner with or sell to a larger hotel chain that has the resources to restore the inn.
A scout from Heston Hotels came last week, and it's like they smelled blood in the water.
But she absolutely refuses to sell, and she doesn't get the loan she needs either.
Elise, I can't approve a loan. Not without a 15% gross profit.
Next, we meet Wes Brown's character, Luke. His family owns a very lucrative holdings firm. His mother is the CEO, and he happens to be the CFO. Extremely successful at what he does, too, putting in tireless long hours. But as a trade-off, that makes him a lousy manager of his team.
No wonder I've been fielding calls from your entire team.
They're excited, right?
Apparently, they are frustrated and overworked, and today his mother meets with him for lunch to celebrate a big win of his, but also to set some things straight.
Is that coming from the CEO or my mother?
Whichever one you're most likely to listen to. Cheers.
Well, she tried, but she was unable to reason with him over lunch, so she took some drastic measures and forced him to take a vacation. Yes, against his wishes.
What did you do?
I deactivated your account.
Yeah, she told him that he will not be allowed to access his company account for the next 2 weeks. I guess it's not only for his own good, but also for the good of his team as well.
Please.
Oh, honey, I love you. But if you even so much as attempt to log in, you're fired.
The funny thing is, he doesn't know what to even do with himself with all this free time. Until he accidentally, sort of, knocked down a picture off the fridge.
Oops.
And it happened to be one of him with him and his best friend from growing up. And where did they grow up? Well, the answer to that question is what brings us back around to the inn at Apple Hill. You see, this picture inspires him to take this opportunity to go visit his friend and his wife at their tavern in a place called Landover.
But a trip to Landover would not be complete without a stay at the Apple Hill.
So let's segue back to Apple Hill, which, as you've probably guessed, is in Landover. Apparently, not only is the electrical panel seriously outdated, but so is their antiquated bookkeeping system.
I thought one of the reasons you hired me was to bring Apple Hill's reservation system into the 20th century.
Actually, pausing here for just a moment, there are a couple of other key elements to this scene here. One is that when Elise walks away, she tells her assistant Nora about a leak, specifically in room 11.
Oh, remember, there's a leak in room 11, so it's out of commission. Got it.
But also take a look here at what Nora pulls out just as soon as Elise leaves the room. Yep, she's putting all the records into a program on her iPad, and Elise doesn't know it. By now, Luke is in town, and he's spending some time catching up with his best friend Jacob. Unfortunately, he's quickly finding out just how much of the town has changed since he's been away. And sadly, what that really means is a lot of businesses, like this arcade, have closed, and now they're just empty storefronts.
What happened to Rusty's what?
Shut down after we retired a couple years back.
Now, it might not seem like the closing of a video arcade is very important to the story, but it's because of this that our meet cute is about to happen. Luke decides he wants to go find his favorite video game, and, well, that game is now over at a place called Tony's Pizza.
Yeah. Welcome home.
So remember how Elise had just left the inn a little while ago? Well, it turns out one of her favorite ways to relieve stress is playing that exact video game over at Tony's Pizza.
Ooh, not bad of a day?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Now, in the introduction, I mentioned I was on the fence about this movie for the first 45 minutes or so, and you might be wondering why, because so far we haven't met any unlikable characters yet, right? Well, this is the scene where I started to formulate my opinion of Elise. When she arrived, Tony told her that someone else had been playing her favorite video game for the last 30 minutes. So she decided to go kick him off the game just as soon as she walked in the door.
Not today. Excuse me, you've obviously been playing long enough. What are you doing?
I found that to be unreasonably pushy, especially when she realizes he's currently threatening to beat her high score.
New top score!
Yeah, this was not my favorite scene. It's not that they were playing video games, because really, who doesn't have a favorite video game? It's the way she tried to shove him aside that bothered me. Although, having said that, I also kind of understand that given the day she was having, maybe she felt like she was losing control of everything.
But that's my game.
So if that's true, I'm willing to overlook the meet cute, except that this was just the beginning.
Did you want a slice to go?
Bye, Tony.
Bye.
Not that I can't help but recognize the humor here when she spouted off to Nora about how rude he was over at Tony's Pizza.
Oh, he's rude and arrogant and way out of line. Okay,
And just wait, there's more. Back at the inn, Elise notices a new guest on the registry by the name of Lucas Bellwether. And yes, she's familiar with the Bellwether name.
Lucas Bellwether. Bellwether, as in Bellwether Holdings. The hotel group?
So immediately she assumes he's coming here to try to buy the inn.
Funding to add several regional chains to their portfolio.
And based on that fear, she steps up her determination to make him as miserable as she can so that he'll want to leave. Like giving him the room that she had just told Nora was out of commission.
If he insists on staying here, I'm gonna give him the worst week of his life.
Now, aside from all that, I was entertained watching all the things that went wrong in this room. He even tries to get her to change it, but she won't budge, and again, urges him to leave.
But I paid for this room fair and square, so until I check out, you're stuck with me.
So, back at the office now, Luke finds out that his mother treated his entire finance team to an overnight stay at a fancy resort and spa.
So instead of them meeting deadlines, she's taking them to get massages?
So, if you think about it, no, he's not having a good day either. And then the next day, we find out why he's staying at Apple Hill and why it's really so important to Luke.
If it weren't for Apple Hill inspiring your mom to stay here, then we wouldn't be friends.
It's true.
But we also see just how petty Elise's character can be.
seeing as you like to spruce things up.
Broken basket and apple picker.
I think her pettiness here is what got under my skin. Like intentionally not giving him any towels.
Too bad I didn't have any fresh towels, but I did manage to dry off with 3 bed sheets. If I can't give you that right there.
Or how about this conversation at the apple picking event?
If these guests wanted to be manipulated by a greedy corporation, they would be at one of your properties.
At this point, I had decided I did not like Elise. But this is also the point where I knew Hallmark had a great opportunity to show some valuable character growth. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know how important that and forgiveness are to me. Well, I think what finally started to turn things around was when Elise talked to Jared, Luke's best friend. After all, this is a small town, they're both local business owners, so naturally they know each other.
How do you know Lucas Bellwether?
And Jared points out that Luke is the same Lucas from school who grew up here. And Elise hadn't made the connection before, and now she finally feels bad for the way she's been treating him.
Consider this a freshly baked mea culpa.
Okay, so he invites her in and things start improving from here. Oh, did I mention after the apple picking fiasco that he decided to leave the inn? Yeah, he's currently staying in Jared's guest room. But
Coffee truce, if you will.
Truce. I was not the one at war.
But it's here where they finally start talking. And you know, isn't it just amazing how much we can accomplish when we're open to having a conversation and listening? Elise confesses that she's worried she won't get that loan and she'll lose the inn soon. So Luke suggests she bring back the Halloween parties they used to have, but they had stopped 15 years ago.
Exactly. Imagine the response if you brought it back.
And this right here is what the rest of the whole movie is about. Working together to plan this big event and trying to pull it off without spending a lot of money.
I will consider doing the Halloween party if you give me a second chance and you finish your stay at Apple Hill.
I have to admit, Luke has some really good ideas about involving others around the town to help out. Like talking to this group taking a class at the local craft store. In exchange for contributing their decorations, they'll get free admission to the party.
What do you guys say? Show of hands?
Or going to the pumpkin patch to see another old friend of Luke's who was open to donating some pumpkins and hay bales for the party.
You want odd looking? You should see my friend Luke Bellwether.
And there's also a really sweet side story about Nora's crush on Chuck the electrician.
Cords.
Yeah.
And his complete state of oblivion. I don't often talk about the side stories, but they were too cute.
Yeah.
But you look great.
Thanks.
One reason I bring this up is the final obstacle to being able to move forward with this Halloween party is the electrical system. You can't have a party at night without lots of lights, inside and out.
How much does the new panel cost?
It's $12,103.
And 42 cents.
Elise almost gave up at this point because she refused to take any handouts or loans from Luke. But when Luke told her he had already posted about the event on social media, she knew it was too late to back down.
Well, see, I can't because we've already sold 110 tickets.
Not only did everything work out in the end, but it worked out well in my opinion. Nothing was rushed, and they came up with some clever ideas to solve some of the problems along the way.
We already have reservations.
Because I went live last week with him.
I guess what I'm trying to say is the writing was clever and not too predictable. And yes, Elise definitely redeemed herself in my eyes.
I cannot believe this. You tracked this down for me?
You know, one of the things that intrigues me about this movie is not only how it's similar to many other Hallmark movies. Big city guy comes to a small town and eventually falls in love with it. But it's also different in that it has a little bit of a twist on it. Luke, as the big city guy, is the one who appreciated all of the charms of living in this small town, and he had to remind Elise, who has lived here her entire life, just how special this place actually is.
No sirens, no buses, no city traffic.
Luke grew up here, but he didn't realize how much Landover meant to him until he had gotten used to big city life and eventually came back here years later. And then we have Elise, who never left. She didn't know how to appreciate all the small things until Luke came into her life. Now, he did leave eventually to return to New York, But when he came back,
Well, this is becoming a habit.
he did so primarily for her. Of course, all of the other reasons he loved this town were part of it too, like expanding the tavern with his best friend.
I was thinking, how much fun would that be to do together?
Be a lot of fun.
But it was obvious to me that Elise was the #1 reason, and I love that Hallmark got it this time too.
You were the reason. Are you up for this challenge?
And the inn looked so beautiful, especially when they got the lights working.
Chuck! No!
So I'm leaning toward a 4.5 for this one. I still don't like how Elise treated Luke in the beginning, but Luke forgave her, so how can I deny how well they turned this one around? Well, I think it's time to wrap up my review of Autumn at Apple Hill. Next week, Hallmark is venturing into something a little different for them, and that is a Halloween-themed movie. It's called Haunted Wedding, and I have absolutely no idea what to expect. So we'll be watching it together for the first time, and we'll talk about it next time. And then it's all Christmas movies for the rest of the year. Until then, and as always, thank you so much for being a part of the Magical Movie Club. If you like this too and you'd like to see more, please let me know by hitting the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're interested, I have links to the preview video as well as the movie page for more details about Autumn at Apple Hill in the description below. I'll be back next week to chat more about our favorite magical movies.
May I have mine?
Better.
Thank you.
God, you fell for that.